So here we are this weekend. We've headed out to Mount Big Ben, which is not far from Yackandandah in northeast Victoria. And today, for something different, we've actually got a couple of mates tagging along with us. We've got Jared driving his late model dual cab Colorado with a trayback, and we've got Mark driving his 90s era Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. So Mount Big Ben's a great place to just head out for a day trip. It's not too far from where I'm based, and it's a track that can vary markedly depending on the weather conditions at the time. So it starts off nice and gentle, and this particular day, as you can sort of see from the footage there already, it was blue skies, sunshine, and we hadn't had rain for a good couple of weeks, so the track was nice and dry, plenty of traction, and it was just a nice drive out, really. You can see from the track surface there's been some ruts. The track starts off, as I said, climbing pretty gently. It's a pretty straightforward drive, particularly in conditions such as this. Most of the track has a decent sort of clay base, so you will find that if you head out here after it's been raining, the condition sort of can be quite different. This climb in particular, where we are now, I've certainly had a lot more trouble getting up this than what we did today. You can see the ruts worn into the track there, and you can probably tell just looking at that the amount of clay. It was baked nice and hard, so again it was a pretty easy drive today, but one of the first times I actually had to go at this track, it was very different conditions and a lot slipperier to actually try and make that climb. So this track that we're on is reached by taking the entrance off the main road and then veering to the left rather than following the main road. There is a two-wheel drive road most of the way to the summit, so you've always got that option as well. But really, visiting Mount Big Ben it's about the trip, because once you get to the top, there's a radio tower and some transmission towers and a nice area to sort of stop and have lunch or what have you, but there's really not much of a view because it's pretty treed in at the top. This climb also today was pretty easy, but certainly has been a lot more difficult than that. Now you probably noticed the change in the quality of the footage just there. That's been shot on the little Kaiser Bass action cam, whereas this footage here of Jared and his Colorado was shot on my Samsung Galaxy. So you know, I think horses for courses, and I think the Kaiser Bass camera will do its job for close-up talking videos, but probably not something that I'll look to use again in longer shots. And again, this particular little climb here was a pretty easy climb today, but certainly has been much more difficult than that in the past. And a fair part of the track is just a fairly steady climb at not too steep a grade as it works its way around sort of the south side of Mount Big Ben and then follows the ridge line up. And again, you can probably tell by looking at the track there that conditions will vary markedly with a bit of moisture added to the mix, and it'll get quite a lot more interesting. having done the track when it's been wet, there's really three main climbs that get fairly interesting. It depends too how much traffic the track's actually had. This particular climb here, again today, it was a pretty easy, straightforward drive, but it certainly has been much more difficult in the past. When it's been soft, there's been some rain around, and the track's had a fair amount of traffic. I think in this particular case, when we were driving it, it's been graded relatively recently, so yeah, it was just a really nice drive out. And certainly for the guys that had never been here before, it was a good sort of introduction to some of the tracks in the area. You can see here again, this footage has been shot on the little Kaiser Bass action cam, and it's nice and clear in the foreground, but the longer stuff is not as clear as you'd like to see it. And again, this footage has just been taken on my Samsung Galaxy. Really good day out with the guys. Jared's Colorado there's got a 2-inch lift. Other than that, it's as you saw, it's fairly stock, and certainly handled the tracks we were on this day without too much difficulty at all. And as did Mark's Land Cruiser Prado. It's also got a 2-inch lift, slightly oversized tyres, solid axles front and rear, so plenty of clearance and plenty of articulation. Once you finish those couple of climbs there, it's a nice drive along the top of the ridge, and there's actually two separate transmission towers, but you come to a fork in the road and you take the path to the right. That'll take you past the first set of transmission towers, and then you'll head towards the second. So this is where we turn to the right, and head just down this track. It's literally a minute or two, and yeah, you've got this nice big clearing with the radio towers and transmission towers in there. Great spot to stop and have lunch, have a cup of coffee before finding another track to take down, and there's plenty of those. We opted for a track that's literally just to the east of the transmission towers, and it runs pretty much straight down the side of the hill, so in sections it's actually steeper than the tracks we took up, and it probably gets a little bit less traffic, so tends to be a little more overgrown than the main track up as well. Again, this was a pretty relaxed, easy drive on this particular day, but can be a lot more challenging when weather conditions have changed the track. So as always, that's always worth keeping in mind what the weather's been doing when you're looking to head out on the tracks. And this particular track here just wends its way through the bush, plenty of bracken fern and plenty of trees. And yeah, as it gets down close to the road, it gets a little bit steeper. There's a bit more clay in the track, and there's a few more ruts and things, but again today none of this was particularly challenging. But I think if you're climbing up this track after it had been wet, it'd be a whole lot more interesting. You can see some evidence there of you know, just how soft this track actually will get when it's had a bit of moisture on it. And this is probably a good example of you know, when you're heading down, and even when the track looks fairly straightforward like it does just here, it pays to keep your eyes open, because as you can see, we've come across a fairly decent hole there, and you do, you know, particularly in an IFS vehicle, run the risk of some damage if you drop your wheel into that at speed. So it's worth keeping an eye out for those sort of obstacles when you're out on the tracks. And the final run here back down to the two-wheel drive gravel road. This track just takes you straight there, and it's a straight run back out to the main road. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and it encourages you to get out there, whether it's to Mount Big Ben or somewhere else. Yeah, see you on the tracks. Thanks for watching.